We will begin this sermon, as is often our practice here at Riverside, with an embodied practice of sorts. To start, I need everyone to wiggle their fingers, get them all stretched out. Stretch your forearms. You're going to need these muscles here in a minute. And if you have it accessible, everyone in the room, online, take out your phone. Open up the text messaging and use those warmed up fingers and forearms to send a text to someone maybe you haven't talked to in a while, and I want you to share just a word of encouragement, a word of kindness, one little text. I'm going to do it too. There we go, it's working. When you finish that, just stretch those forearms, relax those fingers, place your phone wherever it's convenient, and let us continue. This sermon is going to continue by going back in time 20 years, 2 decades. This was my sophomore year of college, and it's time for spring break. Sermons, are they allowed to have spring break stories? We'll find out. Now, I could tell you the story about how I learned to drive a stick shift by being stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the highway in Arkansas. We'll save that one. I could tell you the story when my roommate and I decided, hey, we're close to Mexico, let's drive across the border just to take a selfie. But then when you come back, the Border Patrol doesn't think that's a real reason, so they search your car and take your snacks. We'll save that story for another time. I want to tell the story of my sophomore year of college, 20 years ago, when we drove from Michigan to Arizona to go backpacking. Where? Well, we heard there was this little thing there you could see. The ground does something that apparently is kind of, grand maybe. And so we get to Arizona. We have our backpacking gear. And 2 20-year-olds from the Midwest naively make their way towards the beginning of this canyon. We didn't really know what to expect, but I'll tell you, the pictures don't do it justice. This canyon, grand might even be an understatement. Standing at the rim, looking out over the sea of colors just on the rocks, the sun hitting it, reflecting new tones at every angle. And then with our backpacks on and the naivety of a 20-year-old, we started hiking down. We didn't realize in the spring, one of the sides of the Grand Canyon is in the shadow, in the shade, so it's covered in ice. So imagine hiking the Grand Canyon like this. We make our way down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. We cross the infamous Colorado River. We make our camp by one of its streams. We rest, and we just look around. And we spend the next 2 nights, 3 days, making our way down and back up, immersing ourselves in this natural cathedral. And it made me wonder then, and still 20 years today now, how did this thing get made? Well, the answer is easy. Paul Bunyan dragged his axe. It's not quite as easy as that. Roughly 70 million years ago, there was a tiny little stream that started in the Rocky Mountains and began forming its way down to the Arizona basin. That little trickle of water became the river we call Colorado. 5 million years ago, that river kept going, drip, 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 making its way through plains, digging a valley, a trench, seismic activity, bringing things up, the water carving it down, which led me to my moment 20 years ago. How did this get here? The answer? 1 drop at a time. When it comes to water versus rock, It might seem like rock is going to win, at least in the short term. And by short term, I might even mean my entire lifetime. But when I zoom out 5 million years ago, which is really a blink of an eye in the course of our universe's existence, the water will win. Let justice roll down like water, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Those are the words of Amos. We heard them read this morning. You heard them again now. Amos, one of the prophets we find in our scriptures. Amos, a contemporary of Isaiah, Jonah, Hosea, Micah, others you've heard of. All these prophets popping up in their particular context with a word from God to comment on the world around them. And this prophet Amos, he might not be the typical picture you think of when you think of a prophet. He was a farmer. He had a job to do. He had some trees to take care of. He had some sycamore trees. The text leads us to think he might have been the one who owned the property. He was perhaps one of the wealthier ones who managed the land. And he's the one from whom we hear these words, let justice flow like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. I think a farmer knows the necessity and the significance of water. I think someone who takes care of sycamore trees for their living knows that those trees need the water. The water is essential for the life of that plant. And a farmer also knows the significance water can have when you got too much of it all at once. That rain that came last night that flooded through, and what happened to my crop of sycamores? So this prophet uses this metaphor. Justice like water, righteousness like a Colorado river. And the context of this is a world of injustice and unrighteousness. The text tells us, I hate, says God, I despise your festivals. I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer your burnt offerings and your grain offerings, I will not accept them. Return to sender. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. Wait a minute, the people were doing all the right things. The assemblies, the celebrations, the offerings, the music. We got the best organ in town. What could go wrong? Well, imagine a world where you go to church on Sunday and believe all the right things and pray all the right prayers, and yet you still withhold the funding needed for those who are looking for their next meal. Imagine a world where you believe all the right things, you go to church on Sunday, you say all the right prayers, and yet still you are the one putting the stamp to send the funds for the genocide that keeps happening before our eyes. Imagine a world where you go to church on Sunday, believe the right things, say the right prayers, call yourself pro-life, and then put all the roadblocks up to stop the health care for the life of the people. I'm just talking about Amos here, people. That's who Amos is talking to. People who did all the right things religiously, but kept the power and privilege to themselves. Well, I'll just make sure my comfort gets even cozier. This was a time when the people were at a high point. The stock market was up, but for who? And that's when Amos reminds us, you can do all the right religious rituals and still miss the point completely. How do we make an impact when there seems to be so many immovable mountains of injustice? Amos gives us a reminder. One drop at a time. How do you make a wave? One drop at a time. One drop that I want to remind us about first happened on August 20th, 2018, a Friday, if that rings a bell. A 15-year-old skipped school. Uh-oh. Armed with nothing but a cardboard box, this 15-year-old made their way to their local government town sat outside of it, skipping school, with a sign that said, "School strike for climate." Now you know who I'm talking about. Greta Thunberg, a 15-year-old, on August 20th, 2018, began what came to be known as these Fridays for the Future. She started doing it in Stockholm. Others joined her in her town. Then others in their towns. Then in other countries. Then in other continents. How do you make a wave? Drop, drop, drop. That's the story you know about Greta. And we know her story continues as she joins the Freedom Flotilla to continue to advocate for those in need. But let's go back. How did Greta even get to that point of the first drop when she skipped school as a 15-year-old? It started when she was 8 in 2011. An 8-year-old. We just saw some of our 8-year-olds. As an 8-year-old, she became aware of this ongoing and seemingly insolvable problem of a climate crisis. As an 8-year-old. And she was like, why is no one doing anything about this? This isn't just my future, it's our present. She was depressed as a child, realizing the disparity. She goes on later to say, if you are feeling anxiety from injustice, the medication is action. Ooh, let's say that again. If you are feeling anxiety from injustice, the medication is action. 8-year-old Greta begins seeing these problems. 7 years later, she sits in front of that Parliament building. Why? Well, February and March of that same year, 2018, Greta saw other young people in Parkland, Florida, leaving their schools to protest gun violence. Drop, drop, Florida, drop, Sweden, drop, drop. How do you make a wave? One drop at a time. How do we make waves in the world we live in today? One drop at a time. All right, one drop at a time. What do you do when you are facing mountains of immovable injustice? What do we do when it seems like there's nothing any one of us can do? Drip, drip, drop, drop. We fill the bucket. Not just one of us, but all of us. Drop, drop, drop. This is the sound of not one person snapping, but all of us. This is the sound not of one person's hands clapping, but all of them. This is what it looks like for justice to flow like water, righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Drip, drop, splash, mess. Don't get mad at me. Justice is messy sometimes. Could it be that God is the wave and we are just drops of water? Could it be that God is this vast ocean, always churning, spinning, moving, and we get to surf and join the ride? If God is the water, then God is in us, around us, above us, below us. God is that which makes life possible. If God is the water, then God is a mystery. God is deep. God is powerful. God is refreshing. If God is the water, then perhaps every natural space is holy. Every thunderstorm is a church, a mosque, a synagogue, a temple, a holy ground with no walls. If God is the water, what is the spiritual significance of water that's contaminated in Flint? What is the spiritual significance when oil spills and burns on the water in the Gulf? What's the spiritual significance of islands of garbage that float in the Pacific Ocean? If God is the water, then God takes the shape of whatever container God has put in. The pitcher's not God. Our religious traditions aren't God. They're simply ways in which we encounter and express and experience God. I would hope so that water might flow, justice might flow like water, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. What do you do when you face an immovable mountain of injustice? Drop, drop, drop. Fill the pitcher, pour the water, don't worry. Change the world. All it takes is one drop at a time. All it takes is one moment, again and again and again. Let justice flow like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. What if it just took one text message? Did anyone get a text back? Something as simple as sending one drop might cause the wave of justice. And all it took was a text, a drop, a moment, again and again, until justice flows like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Amen.